Hey everybody, welcome back to Eating the Elephant, where we talk about Hurricane Michael insurance tips and recovery information. And I have a co-star this evening just for a minute. This is Dizzy. This is my daughter's dog. She's a Jack Russell and Rat Terrier mix that we got at the pound, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. And she's here as the star because tonight is all about scammers. And this is the best scammer that I've ever met in my life. If she wants a snack, if she wants a treat, if she wants to play, she knows exactly how to make it happen. And she's shameless in her ability to do that. And you can even see her face. She even knows that she's being talked about as a scammer. So I thought I'd put her on camera just for a minute here to get the theme going. But tonight it's going to be all about scammers. And I think it's unfortunate we have to have this conversation, but I think everybody needs to hear some of the things that we've heard and some of the things we've experienced. And hopefully you have not been a victim, and part of what we're going to talk about tonight is a way for you not to be a victim. The number one thing I want to tell everybody tonight is something I've said before, and that is trust your instincts. If your little spidey sense goes off in the back of your head when you're dealing with a contractor or an insurance company, an adjuster, a public adjuster even, an attorney, whoever it is, if your instincts tell you that the transaction is not going to be good for you, if your instincts get to you and they tell you, well, you need to be suspicious, frankly, you do. You need to trust yourself and you need to trust your gut. I'm very much a gut person, not a gut person, but certainly a little more than when I was younger. But I do trust my gut instincts, and I think it's a very important thing to do. When you first meet somebody, you can. Most people are very effective at assessing people very, very quickly. Now, some people are pretty good about getting around this, but I would say that in general, when you trust your instincts, you're going to have good results. And I want to cover a couple of scams that we've come across, and some I've mentioned before, but I want to flesh them out a little bit more on this episode tonight. First of all, if you suspect somebody, there's some things you need to do. If you suspect you're being scammed, somebody's trying to take advantage of you, being quiet about it is the very last thing you want to do. A lot of people are a little embarrassed, and a lot of people have other more important things to do than to talk about the scam or the potential scam. A lot of people don't want to believe the worst in people, and they just let things go. And I think as a community, we need to be responsible to each other. And part of that is to report the scams that we think are happening. If we report somebody as a scammer and they're doing things the right way, there's just been a mistake, then they're not going to get in any trouble. They're not going to be mad at you. Chances are they'll never even know that you said anything about them. But it's really, really important that we hold people accountable. And the way to do that is for people that see bad behavior or potentially bad behavior to report that behavior. Some things that we need to talk about are, if you are dealing with somebody that you think is a scammer, the first thing you need to do is get away from them. You don't need to talk to them. You don't need to respond to them. Don't answer the text messages. Don't answer their phone calls. That's not a good move. It just gives them more of an opportunity to find out more about you and to potentially dig into you a little deeper. So the best thing you can do is move away. Again, as I said, don't respond to them. And they'll be very persistent. Once they put a little hook in you, they'll be very, very persistent and try to stay on it. So don't let them get that hook any deeper. Something that you could do too, particularly if you think that they're trying to get money from your insurance claim, is call your adjuster and let them know. Because something that we're finding too is that people are getting a hold of people's claim information, their claim number, and their insurance information, and they're submitting claims and repair bills, particularly TARP bills seems to be the big one right now, to insurance companies. And insurance companies, particularly for something that's fairly modest like a TARP bill of $2,000 or $3,000, they're simply paying those bills without a lot of question. So it's very important. Pat Savison turned us onto this, that you need to let your insurance company and your adjuster know to make a note in their file about a particular firm, a particular name that you're suspicious of that did not do work. I would also suggest to you that when you get bills from your insurance company, you need to review those bills. We're having a real problem, particularly with remediation contractors, of them submitting bills for work that just was never done. Some of this could be lazy, some of this could be profiteering, but we're seeing work that just was never done. They'll talk about moving things out of a particular room, tearing stuff out of a particular closet, which just was never done. You need to go back behind and if possible, verify the work that was done by your contractor. Not so much that it's going to affect your claim. your claim is going to be paid. Your insurance company is probably going to have to pay the cost of the scam rather than you, which is the way it should be. If a scam is going to cost somebody something, it needs to cost the insurance company rather than the homeowner wherever possible. But we don't need to perpetuate this, and we don't need to make it easy for them to be a scammer that can scam the next person. So I think that's very, very important. You're not necessarily just protecting yourself. You are certainly protecting yourself. And don't necessarily worry about protecting your insurance company, but worry about protecting your neighbors, the other people in this community. And the quicker we can get scammers either arrested or chased out of town, the quicker everybody will have a much better experience because they'll deal with a better contractor. What I think you need to do if you suspect a scam is, again, the very first thing is not to engage that scammer anymore, but call the state attorney's office. You need to let them know that you think that something is afoot, and be ready to give a pretty good description of what's gone on. Sometimes if your radar goes off and it's not something that they can prove, the state attorney's office, frankly, may do the functional equivalent of making a note. And they may not do much, but if you're not the only one that brings up some suspicion about this particular contractor, adjuster, public adjuster, attorney, whoever, if they get a list of those, then they tend to, when there's smoke, there's fire. So they're going to jump on that. So if you're the person that thinks you're having a bad experience and you don't say anything, then frankly, I can't say you're responsible for them, but you're not helping the situation and you're not helping the local community recover. It's part of our responsibility as local citizens here to get out good information, to help our neighbors, and to chase people out of town that don't need to be here. I want to give a little more detail on the TARP scam because I've said this before, but what we're seeing now, particularly with some elderly folks, is they will get a bill from someone that has their claim information, including their claim number and their insurance company. They may get a bill that is threatening to put a lien on their home because there has been a TARP service that has been there and has put a TARP on their home, maybe as little as $1,500. We've seen as much as $7,200, and it's simply not true. This firm has never been there. They've never been on your roof. They've never tarped your house. It's very helpful if you can talk to your roofer and or to your adjuster and find out, well, maybe your roofer put up a tarp. We've got proof of that. Maybe you talk to your adjuster to make sure that they don't get paid for their bad behavior. So what I would say to you is, random people are coming out of nowhere, and if they can get a little bit of information from you about you and your claim, then it's going to be a problem. Early on in the process, people were putting, because of requirements to speed things along, they were putting claim numbers on the outside of their envelopes. People were painting claim information on their garage doors and on their windows in order to speed things along and make it clearer for adjusters that were here with very little infrastructure and with all the signs and address signs down. It made it very, very easy for adjusters to find your house. It also makes it easier for scammers to get into your pocket. We've also heard something. There was a public adjuster scam going on, and I don't think most public adjusters behave this way. I know I've given some good criticism, and I think a lot of it well-founded to public adjusters, but I don't think this is normal. You'll have a public adjuster talk to somebody, and they seem to be preying in particular on people that don't live here. They either have a rental home here or it's a secondary home, but you have an out-of-town, often out-of-state owner. This information is very easy to get to from the from the property appraiser's website. It's publicly available data. So if someone rides around, this particular public adjuster appears to have been scoping neighborhoods and then pulling up addresses while he was in his car and seeing that they were off-site property owners. Well, you simply let them know, hey, I know you're having you're out of town, you're probably having trouble getting a general contractor engaged. I can help you with that. It's 10% as it is normal for a general contractor. And if you'll give me your email address, I'll email you this contract and I'll help you out. Well, it's a public adjuster that's doing this. They're not a general contractor, and they're not taking the 10% in profit or overhead that a general contractor would do. They're signing someone on to a public adjuster contract, which in some cases they don't need. And again, I don't think this is common among public adjusters, but because as much as I disagree with a lot of what they do, I don't think they go to these lengths as a rule. I think this is an anomaly, but we've had 2 reports of this from 2 of our out-of-town property owners, and I think it's very important that you understand what you're getting and what you're doing when you sign a contract, particularly if you own property here and you don't live here. You need to get a better handle on what's going on the ground here. All of us are still here in ground zero. We learned an awful lot. Some of these lessons that we've learned are fairly unfortunate, but you need to talk an awful lot with people that are here. Talk to your agent, talk to your property manager. You need to get a very good handle on what you're doing before you start signing contracts. I think that's very important to all of us. Finally, I want to skip past the scammers because, again, I think most of you, if you're smart and you trust your instincts, you'll probably get past them. I would ask a special favor of you, though, and that's to help protect your neighbors, your family, the elderly. There are some folks that are simply very, very trusting, particularly those of us that are older, and keep a special eye on your elderly neighbors. They tend to be the ones that are the most at risk and tend to be taken advantage of the most frequently. So I realize we all want to be good neighbors right now, but especially be good neighbors to those of you, to those around you that are elderly and maybe a little more trusting than they should be. I want to leave you with one thing, and that's to do the math. I talked to you on our last episode about money in and money out, and I think it's real important to you that you keep track of the money that comes in on your claim, and it's equally important to keep track of the money that you spend on your claim. If it's possible, put things on a single credit card or in a single bank account, because when all of this is over with, you need to match things up. I went through this process just a little bit. We're getting soffit next week, we think. Hooray for us. And so what we're thinking about doing is trying to figure out the cost and whether that cost matches up with what we've been paid. And in going through the line item of our initial estimate that we were paid on, it looks like what we're going to pay on to a subcontractor to do things like the gutters, the soffit, the fascia, some of the things that weren't done by the roofer. It looks like maybe the roofer was already paid for some of that work, and it looks like maybe we're being a little bit underpaid. So I'm not concerned. As I've explained to you several times, what we need to do is we need to take that information and submit it to the insurance company and ask them to pay us additional funds. And I have to be honest, I don't expect a lot of problem. It does bring to mind, though, that you need to review your estimates and your invoices. When you get an invoice from a contractor, you need to make sure that it matches the actual work they did. And when you get an estimate from your insurance company, you need to make sure that matches the actual work that needs to be done. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go through line by line by line on your Xactimate estimate that may be 30 or 40 pages long. I'm not suggesting you count every nail, that you look at the number of linear feet in every single room. I'm not suggesting that at all. What I am suggesting is that you give it a decent high-level look, and as you get individual trade contractors to do work on your home, you need to try to match that up as best you can with the amount of money that you've been paid based on the estimate you were already given. If the money you've been paid is insufficient, you need to be able to get into that estimate. You need to be able to take individual items and point them out to your adjuster. A good adjuster, frankly, will help you with this process. And if your adjuster doesn't help you with this process, what you need to do is call your agent or someone else that can help you with the process, perhaps your contractor. Contractors have become very, very adept at dealing with insurance companies. I do know that we've seen an awful lot of concern and a lot of, a lot of angst expressed that a lot of public adjusters have accused contractors of negotiating claims. Generally speaking, general contractors don't negotiate claims. They can negotiate the scope of your work. They can help you decide what does and doesn't need to be done. And they can talk with your insurance company about the price of a particular item. They cannot discuss with your insurance company what's covered and what's not. That would be public adjusting without a license, and that's not permitted. But your contractor, make no mistake, can discuss the scope of work and can discuss the cost of that work with your insurance company, with your insurance adjuster, and with you. Nothing prohibiting that. I'm going to leave you with what we always do and what we're going to try to continue to hammer on. It's educate, advocate, escalate, and mediate. We want you to educate yourself. We want you to advocate for yourself. When necessary, you should should escalate your claim to a supervisor or a higher authority. If it becomes extreme, you should mediate that claim with the Department of Financial Services in Tallahassee. And based on the scammer side, we're going to add a fifth one to that, which is incarcerate. If someone behaves badly, you need to help us get them off the street and away from other people so they can't take advantage of anyone else in our community. I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you guys will have a good weekend. For those of you that are looking for something to do this weekend, I encourage you to come out to Pier Park, get away from the blast zone, go out to the beach where it's less evident. Come out to Mardi Gras, enjoy yourselves, catch a few beads, and maybe just get away from this for just a little while. It doesn't mean you have to go too far or spend too much money, but you can get away from it and maybe enjoy your day. Hopefully we'll have some decent weather. If not, again, at least you'll be out of the blast zone. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday, and I hope you have the rest of the good week.